Ring, ring, ring. Hello, please. Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to the Krown's magical crypto cave.
Well. Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. My God, what a lofty introduction, Mrs. Elsa over there. Beautiful indeed. And with Bitcoin, just want to follow up from this morning's live stream. We're actually starting to see some more price action in the lower time frame. So we have seen that last move back down to 9,900. Then we saw the move up to 10.2. So I wanted to follow up on that on the next sort of trade ideas of what I'm looking at right now, and just kind of talk more about the low time frame bullshit, because mostly that's where all the price action is going in around right now. Most of the higher time frames have been unchanged as far as the macro goes for quite some time now, and just the analysis that I've been doing on the weekends, especially in the Sunday uploaded video titled, or sorry, not titled, but in the playlist titled long-term analysis. That is the playlist where I go into depth on the more long-term trajectory of this asset. If you want the more long-term minded analysis, that's the one to go to. I'm not going to be doing too much more long-term stuff on these uploaded videos during the night. I want to keep them short and sweet and focus mostly on the lower time frames as kind of like a subsidiary to the live streams, just following up, because a lot of the time we actually do get some action between, both live streams. So with that said, as always, wish you the best, the haps of the haps as well. And my God, man, let's teleport now into the live stream and beam me up and beam me in. And there she is, Bitcoin on the daily. And Bitcoin once again having a nice little test down into that cyan 89 exponential moving average on the daily little time frame right now. And if we could actually close the daily, which will be closing the next hour and 17 minutes and 56 seconds like this wouldn't be all so bad. Now, I certainly do think that it's very likely that we get another test back down to like 99.50, 9900, somewhere down around the cyan 89 exponential moving average, but it would be good enough to kind of set in a little bit of a base for the interim. However, it is still, at the end of the day, and I said that I wouldn't talk about too much high time frame bullshit. This is about as high as I'll go right now. How high can you get on these higher time frames? Well, a daily is what I'm going to say. And daily right here, have to always remind ourselves that we are still within the confines of this as a massive descending triangle, apex in early October, which implies resolution somewhere in middle of September, of which I've been saying September 15th as a prospective date. I would kind of extend that to a range between September 15th to September 21st, 22nd, as we not only have structural integrities kind of showing us that we likely have resolution around that time period, but also not fundamental events, but world events, like actual financial events, like U.S. Fed meeting to discuss rate cuts for interest rates. So that's going to be a big thing that's likely going to precipitate a lot of price action. And I'd imagine that those two things do line up with each other. Again, the Fed meeting coming in, I think, on the 18th of this of this month, and then again on like the 22nd or 23rd. And then, of course, like I said, from a structural narrative, we do have apex coming in on early October, which would suggest resolution becomes extremely likely somewhere in this region. Not only that, but looking at the volume signature right here, falling off from left to right extremely rapidly. Now we have very little ways to go. And where do we come in at apex in? Same fucking area, which would imply the same resolution date. Not only that, but historical volatility percentile, kind of laying it out, and even more important to me, really, as it contracts even more so, which you would expect after about 6 months straight to the upside. We're going to spend our time going sideways. So thus far, the higher time frames have been mostly unchanged. If, as technically speaking, though, because this is a descending triangle, it's more likely to break out to the downside than the upside. Although, because we have had a macro uptrend leading up into this area, I would say that those probabilities get diminished a little bit, if you really want to split hairs. But at the end of the day, man, if we break this bottom support trend line right here at about 9,400, 9,500, that's the time when I start to really look for these downwards trades, as technically we would have a measure move initiated all the way down here towards about 66 to 6,700. Not only that, but we actually we'd likely see bounce along the way if that were to happen. But keep in mind that this horizontal right around that 9,400 area also aligned with a 382 Fibonacci retracement. So I do like these for confluence, and telling me that, if we do break this area right here, there's no more hopium for like the short or medium, or, long term certainly is a completely different discussion, but short and medium term would certainly be very, 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 very bearish in my opinion if we were to actually do that. And like I said, measure move all the way down here to about 6,700. There likely would bounce along the way. It'd be naive not to think so. Rarely do things move in a straight line. Around 8,900 would be the first area of interest. Then about the 200 exponential moving average right here at about 8,500. Gap boys waiting with their licking their chops on that one. Then we got this 200 simple and blue 3.7 exponential moving average all the way down here at about 76 to 7,700. And then yes, if all of those fail, then I'd look for the full on measure move all the way down here to get hit. And then we could talk about the next steps. But for right now, obviously we're very well and far away from actually breaking this 9,400 support. So it is still just a discussion to have in the future. And like I said, I do think that we get resolution sometime in the next week to like 8 or 9 days between like now, or I wouldn't say really now, but like the end of this week and the end of next week is kind of where I'd say. So I think that'd put us around those dates of the 15th to the 23rd, and that's about what I've been saying for for a couple months now. Obviously, we're actually coming into this area now, so let's find out if that actually does stay true. But thus far, looking like it's on schedule, looking like it's on track. It is also worth mentioning that on the daily, while we are in a descending triangle, we actually do see daily momentum also to still pointing to the downside. We see daily Stokes actually rejecting the bullish control zone and nosediving right here. Not only that, but daily RSI coming back down and looking like it wants to take a little bit of a dip down into the bearish control zone. Now, we aren't there just yet. Still, this is more neutral than anything in this region, but the second that we actually start to close RSIs back into this bearish control zone is the second that I start to look at this as more and more likely to really start to fall apart in a more tradable sense, in a more like expedited sense, like actually looking for trades, not just talking as an analyst, because analysts have no real skin in the game, right? Analysts can say whatever the fuck that they want, and they don't take the hurt, and they don't feel the great, and they don't feel the successes as well. So you can say whatever the fuck that you want, and you can always claim victory on the obvious ones, but at the end of the day, man, you hold no, nothing happens to you if you're wrong. You don't have to wear that out on your trades. As a trader, though, that's a completely different story, right? So that's why I always say that being a trader and being an analyst are really two different things, actually. A good analyst does not necessarily make a good trader, and vice versa as well. I know some great traders who don't know how to fucking analyze anything, really, and I know some phenomenal analysts who can't trade to save their fucking lives. It's insane. Anyways, I can take a sip of this water, man. I'm fucking thirsty right now. Just 1 second, please. Alrighty, there it is. Let me just adjust this window over there. There we go. And back on into it. So I should show my positions right now. I'm still holding the same short options positions. What I've done is I've actually started to transfer it onto the next expiration. So you'll notice that yesterday I had this 11,000 strike open 20 times as well. I sold 20 contracts there for like $300-400 when Bitcoin was around 10.8, 10.9 last week. So I closed all of those. I want to close some of these guys as well. As you can see, I'm bidding a little bit right here to close those. And so you'll see my P&L go down a lot here. So technically yesterday I was at 1.5 Bitcoin P&L. Right? Today I've closed actually almost half that position now, and I'm actually still a little bit over 1 Bitcoin P&L. So that does not account for what I actually closed. And so you can see that again, options just being the fucking beautiful benefactor of just allowing opportunity in a sideways bullshit market like we have right now. And like I said, I did start rolling these to the next expiration. This is going to be paired up with my spot longs, and as longs are above about 10,000 and holding this area on a daily total closing basis, the cyan 89 expected moving average, I will hold those longs. And again, that just gives me another very easy way to manage this trade. And even if it goes against my spot position, I can close that, and I'll probably end up taking a small loss, and that maybe even might get one of those risk-free trades. Who knows? And what happens after that? Well, as you saw this week, the same thing, the same sort of setup, the same sort of logic applies. I let those options expire. They crumble down because I'm based upon all these pivots for my spot prices. And with that said, when I actually take off those spot trades, then the options are kind of like a natural cover. But in this way, because we do it in advance, because we do it before the actual downturn, covering it, well, can still make money off that. And that's just the beauty of options right there. Anyways, with the daily, things are looking a little bit nasty here, but let's go down to lower time frames, because this is really what I really wanted to speak about today, just because I want to follow up from this morning's video. Now, here's the thing: we got all the moves that we spoke about over the last 20. I don't say this to sound arrogant, but I do want to kind of follow this up here. So just bear with me and cringe with me if I sound a little bit arrogant here. But we got that first move down here to about 9,900. That got bought back on up. Yes, no shit. Then the next one came back down. We called that one as well. We popped back up, and then this is where it actually starts to get a little bit more interesting, right? Because now we're starting to put in some divergences here. I believe the 4-hour is confirming some bullish divergence. Yes, it is. We're back above the exponential, and more importantly, we got that next rope down, failing to get a lower low right here, more importantly. And what happens after that? Well, we get the 10-2 test that we just spoke about during this morning's video. So what now? Well, I do think that the initial pushback is going to be the initial response is going to be a sell. It's going to be a pushback. But this is actually starting to shape up a little bit better on the lower time frames the more and more that I look at it. Some people have been calling this out as a falling pizza right here. I'm not so convinced that it's a falling pizza. I really just like pizzas in general, and I hate all all pizzas really, just because they make me absolutely fucking destroy bathrooms worldwide. But the thing is that in cryptocurrency land, as far as trading goes, the patterns very rarely, in my experience, actually play out, even when you're on the same side as the macro trend. Now, is this one a falling pizza? Technically, it does work, to be fair. So we could do a measure move on it, but I don't know how much I trust this one. And it looks like we actually want to give a little bit of a test of the upside right now. It would imply move all the way here towards actually 10.5 region, possible. But we're gonna have to plow through all these major movement averages right here, and this is essentially the same on every time frame. This is your 4 hour, right? So we're seeing 4 hours start to put everything in this region. But not only that, if we go over here to the 12 hour, you can see like literally everything in this region. We go to the 24 hour, the daily, same thing. Everything coming in this region, but now kind of having a little bit of a downslope, not good. 2 day, same thing, 21 and 10 simple in that same region, 10.3. 3 day, literally the same fucking thing. And weekly, where do we see the red 10 simple at, which was kind of a big deal for me coming into this week, right once again around that 10,300-ish level. So this is a big pivot going on in forwards here. And the way that I look at it is that as long as Bitcoin's below this region, that means that we can come up and test it. That's completely fine. But as long as we're below it, the sort of bias here would actually be to the downside. I mean, obviously it's going to be the downside. We're still in a descending triangle, and now it's starting to, put on like some actual structural issues with this whole formation. So I would say that, by the same token, if Bitcoin can get back above this 10,300-ish level, start closing some 4 hour dollars above there, especially a daily above there, then we start to look actually a lot more bullish in the short and medium time frames. Obviously, macro time frames more or less unchanged. Even with the advent of this last few months of price action, just sideways really is what it comes down to. As long as we're above that $9,400 pivot, and I didn't show the upper resistance, but the upper resistance probably it's been unchanged. You probably know about 12,000 is where I'd be looking towards. As long as we're kind of between those two bounds, I don't look at this as anything more than just sideways trading in a range, consolidating the last major run that we saw from about 3,000 to 14,000. I mean, you can expect such behavior after a massive explosive movement like that. Anyways, regardless of whether you call this falling pizza or not, I actually do see a few good things on the lower time frames. We actually do, like I said, we do see bullish divergence all the way up to a 4 hour right here. Let's see if that's on a 6 hour perhaps as well. No, not really. It's certainly not. But more importantly, actually all time frames, I think up to maybe a 6 or 8 hour are starting to turn around on our momentum oscillators like stochastics. Even a 10 hour actually getting back up there as well. So the 12 hour, likely to fall soon. So if we actually can keep up with this momentum, I should actually show this. We got 10 hour, 8 hour, 6 hour, 4 hour, 3 hour right here, 2 hour and 1 hour, all coming from the same area except for the hourly, but that's to be expected. This tells me that we actually do have a little bit of fuel here to test officially, perhaps even to the 10,300 level. Do we have enough fuel to break it? I don't know about that right now, especially when macro timeframes like daily are still down. That's not even a macro time frame. It's more like a medium time frame in my opinion. But I really want to see those on the same side as like the bigger time frames essentially. And while we don't have that just yet, that would likely align with us coming back up and testing around that critical point 10.3. I don't really have an opinion on whether we break it or not actually. I do think that we probably mount a little bit of a higher test here. Now in the more lower time frames, do we come back down first? Probably likely, maybe back down to like 10,000 base. That's completely fine. But I do think over the next like 24 to 36 hours, we probably do mount an actual bounce attempt back up to 10.3. I do think that this gets ascended here is essentially what I'm saying. And from there, I don't have an opinion if we break it or not. I only have an opinion if you see a 4 hour doodle closing above here, I'm back to being short-term, medium-term bullish. If you see a rejection right here, I'd prepare for another test back down to this blue box territory, and it will very unlikely hold on the next test. Likely we come all the way down here to this base, somewhere in this region between like 95 and 96. That's once again in the danger zone. As you can see right here, I have this blue box territory kind of aligning with that bottom support trend line. Remember, also in confluence with the 382 Fibonacci tracement from the ultimate high to the ultimate low this past run. So to me, that is the critical area for the bulls to hold. As long as we're above here, you can always make a case. But even just coming back down to this region, it's not going to look good. So Bitcoin's kind of in like a little bit of a do or die situation as the as a clock continues to tick down. But I would say, yes, very, 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 very likely that we do push back on this first attempt to 10.2, probably back down maybe to like $10,000. And then I'd be looking for another bounce attempt back up to about 10.3. That's the real one, though. I don't have an opinion on if it takes out this area or not. I just have an opinion on if it does. If it does, that's when I start to want to hold on to my longs once again for the short and medium term, and probably target a move back up here towards 10.7, maybe even 11. I mean, really, realistically, I'd just look for like a floaty behavior back up to 11,000 essentially. But right now, again, the stakes are high, and that is not a food reference. What I mean by that is we are coming very, 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 very close to the resolution point of this whole formation. So each and every last little move now really, really counts a lot because, well, if we're extremely close to the support, when that date kind of starts to arrive and things become extremely likely to actually break, well, where's the most likely to place to break? Well, it'd be to the downside, and vice versa for the upside. By the way, I should probably show this while we're here right now, but this formation right here to the upside, we already spoke about the potential downside. If we do reverse here and head back up to above this diagonal resistance trend line right around 11.4, also confluent with the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement, technically speaking, you would have resolution to the upside. However, I would not call resolution until we get back above and close above this prior high right here, as that's just a classic fucking trappy trap area. Technically, if we do break it to the upside, measure move all the way to 14,500, probably 16,000 after that would likely be initiated. But for right now, we're still kind of crawling sideways on the lower time frame, so that's where all the action's going down. So it's really not too helpful to talk about that kind of stuff right now as far as the greater picture. It's just preparing for it as time goes on. Anyways, go check out the expected moves chart right on over here with regards to historical volatility. And what do we see? We're actually starting to see it flattening again. So this actually does suggest that we might find a little bit of bottoming action here on the lower time frames, as we've actually nailed both sides of this perfectly. The downside about 9,900 or a few ticks below there, and the first innovation to the upside around 10.3. Beautiful, fucking beautiful right there. Now, of course, if we were to move anywhere above 10.3, then I actually think that we'd move all the way up to the third standard deviation right here. Very, very likely. I just don't see too much stoppiness right around the second ring right here. And to the downside, very likely that we move to the downside of the third standard deviation, which puts us right into the danger zone once again. But I don't think that happens like today or tomorrow. Still going to be a little bit of waiting, even if you are super bullish or super bearish right now. The most likely thing still is a little bit more sideways before we have real resolution on this. Anyways, okay, cool. So we spoke about all the lower time frames. Momentum also starting to turn back up again. We're getting some bullish divergences on the 4 hours and lower, and looks to me like we do want to test this area right here. Like I said, I would really just play this one by ear. There's no real reason to rush into position right now, unless you got to buy on this area right here, or you're trying to short this. I mean, you could short this area right here and then just flip long if we do close above it. Fair enough. Completely valid. Just have to actually do it when that happens, because a lot of people would talk like that and then they hold on to the losing side of the trade and then don't put on don't close it, take the small loss, and then put on the winning side. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. Well, that's the whole point. You have to follow the plan, right? Anyways, looking at this right here, I should mention this as well. Could we be looking at a potential inverted head and shoulders being put in place right now? Technically, you could make the argument for this. This would be your neckline right here, right around 10.9, 11,000, which we have a nice double top behavior coming in right around. We have a double left shoulder right here, head and potential right shoulder being put in place. This also means, though, more importantly, and I don't really care all that much about head and shoulders and all that bullshit. I mean, it would be an inverted head and shoulders, to be 100% clear. So it would be still on the same side of the macro trend, which does kind of up the probabilities of it actually playing out. But more importantly, if we are going to look at it as such, then any sort of a closure on like a 2 hour, even as little as like a 2 hour dildo below this 98.50ish region right here, below our current low, from yesterday, and that destroys that. And very, 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 very likely that we will, maybe have a little bit of a bounce here, but extremely likely that we do make our way down here officially back down to the danger zone once again. Anyways, as you can see on the 12 hour, we actually are being held up by the purple 200 exponential moving average thus far. Has been pretty damn good, actually, just as like a general phase kind of distinguisher, I suppose. You do see that when we started flipping around right on over here in March, that's when the bearish momentum really waned. And, during 2018, it was a great place to be a seller upon. Of course, we got some wicks above, but during the bull run of 2016, 2017, we actually had to play off it quite a bit. But there's actually some that I haven't really been showing all that much recently, and I think it's a lot more important. I know I said I wouldn't talk about too much high time frame stuff today, but we'll discuss this for just a brief moment here. So let me just put on these moving averages. There we go, and the Christmas moving averages. There you go. Anyways, lovely. The one that I want to focus on is, first and foremost, the 2-day dildo time frame, and then the green 50. I think this is 55 right here. 50 and 55. It's going to be about the same. Doesn't really matter. To call a spade a spade, it's going to be about the same. As you can see right now, we we are basing upon that green 50 exponential moving average, and that is where our current kind of major danger zone comes in around. It's a few ticks above right now, but what I want to show is that historically speaking, Bitcoin loves to play off this on its general upwards markets, going all the way back to 2010 essentially. During this whole run to the upside, we broke it a few times, but that was during our actual downwards moves. Then same thing during 2014 to 2015, and then during 2015 to 2018 when we're just straight to the upside. We break it a few times actually right here, but it's never really veers too far away from price action, and we can kind of assess the same sort of thing in the more present times on Bitcoin, as long as we're kind of closing 2-day dills above it, and especially opening and closing them above it, and especially not veering too far off. Like in this case, that would be down below maybe 9,000. Then I would kind of look at it to be kind of like a same sort of phase distinguisher, if you want to call it that. Same thing with the 200 simple as far as like the macro goes. When we're above it, generally bullish. When we're below it, generally bearish right here. I think we'd have to go back to BLX to kind of get this part right in over here, but you can imagine that it works the same. And then same thing in 2018 to 2019 right here. So as long as we're above that from a macro standpoint, I don't really have any real reason to think that this is like some sort of massive bull trap. That also but we could not have a massive bull trap and still come back down to like $7,000. So that's not really all that helpful. I could put on my BLX index right here and go into the matrix once again and talk about this dotted trend line that comes in all the way back from the genesis of Bitcoin, which has been a pretty damn good, once again has been a pretty damn good kind of indication of what sort of phase that we're in, going back all the way on over here to November 2011 to December or January 2013, anchored in these two areas, living below it, as you can see right on over here. It's a little bit convoluted, I do apologize, but I'm referring to this guy right here, this one right here that I have my cursor on right now. And when we're below it, it's a great time to be a seller. It's a great time if you're a trader to be a seller on that trend line. You can see some phenomenal plays right here. And if you're a long-term investor, a great time to be an investor. And once we break above it, parabolic 1, parabolic 2, blow off your top, and then come all the way back down. Where do we base upon for literally the next 2.5 years? Well, it's literally all on the same trend line right here. It holds up, it holds true, and we go parabolic once again, blow off our top, and then the next time we actually break it, we actually break this trend line to the downside, and we get a very similar behavior to what we saw in the Genesis right over here, where it's a great time to be a seller on that trend line, and if you're a long-term investor, a great time to be a buyer below it. And more importantly, once we break above it, as you see right over here, boom, a massive 2x rally over the course of like 2 weeks right there, or sorry, more than 2x rally from about 6,900 to almost $14,000. So pretty damn good. Anyways, more importantly, this dotted trend line would be pretty much in line with that green 55 exponential moving average and be coming in at current price action somewhere right around about 9,300. So any sort of a move below there, and I actually do start to have some more, some greater doubts about, about the bigger picture on Bitcoin. But still, it still needs to see this area violated before I start to get like super worried about the macro term. But it certainly would put in a massive damper on like the next, quarter to 6 months worth of price action. Probably be looking at some, a lot of downside, and well, we'll discuss it if we actually get there. But for right now, still okay is what I want to show, and we will be closing this 2-day tonight, which I'm curious how the oscillators are coming in right now. Let's actually check them out right here, and come on, Bitstamp, show me. 2-day Stokes still very much to the upside, although they will be meeting resistance right here, it looks like, and that's right at the edge of the bearish control zone. So will they be able to get out of the bearish control zone, or will they be stifled right there? That's a real question. 2-day Jewel actually okay. Actually okay. There's no real signal there, but 2-day RSI not good at all. Losing the exponential right here. Yes, it technically is in the neutral zone, but any sort of another move back into the bearish control zone, and I think it stays there for quite some time. Same thing on the 3-day, pretty much really about the same the same price action here. Funnily enough, on the 3-day Stokes, we still have yet to see any sort of like clear direction being chosen on them. They're like just aligned on each other, and it's been that way for the last like week and a half to 2 weeks. I've really never seen it be this long, this long, this indecisive. But still technically down right here. But man, it wouldn't take too much to kind of move it around either which way. 3-day RSI also getting rejected by the exponential. Not the best look right here. It does look like a failed breakout out of the fallen pizza that we were looking at coming into to last week. That first move back down below the exponential was a kickoff. Was a tip off, and then since then we've pretty much fallen down from about 11,000 all the way to where we are right now. So $1,000 move to the downside. Still not what you want to see if you want to be bullish right here, which unfortunately is, well, still let it play out, I suppose. Anyways, let's go over here. Let's check out Bitcoin dominance. I'm curious how the good old Bitcoin dominatrix is doing right now, and let's get a .d right there. There we go. Beautiful. And what do we see? Let me put back on all major moving averages. Now, I do think that I do think it's likely that we extend this bounce back a little bit more, probably back up to like 72.5. But after that, just a small up. So alt's going to get hurt a little bit here. I do think that this actually crumbles down, most likely crumbles down maybe to like 70%, 70.5% to 71%, somewhere in this region here. It's going to take a little bit of time, but very, very short term, it's likely to go up. So alts versus Satoshis probably get hurt a little bit in the short term, probably around their prior lows, if somewhere around their prior lows where it sends them, and then actually be looking for another bounce. So while I do talk a lot about shit, a lot of shit on altcoins, they're going to have their bounces, right? So if you are trading altcoins, then perhaps one of the times to pay attention, I suppose. And let's just go check in on Mr. Cardano and see what he's doing. And literally exactly what we spoke about. Back down to 440. I think I said 435. Close enough is fucking close enough. Maybe we do get another wick down here. That's completely fine. But more medium term, I actually do think that this does give another try to the upside. So I don't think it's over just yet. Yes, we are still downtrending here. Yes, it does still look like shit. Longer term, absolutely fucking atrocious. Don't get me wrong. A chart that looks like this over a long period of time, not the best sign, but it can still very much have its bounce. So I would say maybe a little bit more of a pullback, maybe down to like 430, 435-ish region, and then I'd be looking for a bouncy bounce up most likely. As I'd reach for my water once again, just 1 second to take a sippy sip. Oh, man. All right. Okay, cool. Let's go check out the other two, the top two shitcoins that we've been, that we usually deal with. Where's my Mrs. Litecoin? There you are. Ladies first. There, get up and on there. Wow. Completely indecisive right here. Technically, we are still holding up above this trend line that we technically broke the other day. I don't consider this a break. You don't get multiple chances to buy a breakout. And while it probably does bounce here a little bit, this looks more like a rejection and a hunt to me is what it looks like. Daily Stokes moving up the fucking erect right here, and price action's been sideways mostly. We haven't really done any real damage to the upside, so this is just allowing the outsider to reset. I don't like this. Again, historical volatility percentile, very little space for it to go. It quite literally will be in. It's been staying in single digits for the last 2 days. That only has one way, and it's up. And sorry, that means to go up, which means expansion, which means massive direction being picked, which if in this case, it doesn't tell you, it doesn't tell you the side of the direction, whether it's upside or the downside. But looking at the way that our oscillators are kind of reacting right now, I'm not the biggest fan of it. Technically, we did get a good buy signal on the Jewel right around here, but that was on this low at about $63 in a little bit of time ago. So I'm not sure if I still trust that one. I don't know if you can really expect it to have more than that right now, again, especially when this is counter to this trend right here, which is very much a downtrend. Now, if we could break this to the upside, if we could close the daily doodle above $71, let's call it, or maybe even just 70 3/4 would be good enough, then I'd have a first target somewhere around here, actually almost at $80, and probably come up and test around the green 55 on the daily, and potential for more. But again, man, it's likely to go with the rest of the market. Looking at what about our 12, this doesn't, I don't like the setup, man. Really don't like that setup. 12-hour Stokes wanted to cross the downside as we get a very anemic breakout, which immediately comes back down. How rarely does that happen? Do those actually get follow through after getting a beautiful retest like that? It's like, all right, Mark's just feeling generous right now, baby. There you go. Anyways, let's go check out Mr. Buterol as well, 178.85. Holding on for dear life on the 12-hour 21, as you can see, but same setup here. 12-hour stuff is coming down. 12-hour RSI looking like it wants to cross the exponential on the bear side. Daily right here. Multiple doji dildos alongside the yellow 21. Usually I don't like it when it's set up like that, but again, it's likely to move with the rest of the market, So I think Bitcoin's gonna choose direction here. Litecoin and Mr. Buterol, if I was just looking at them, I'd say more bearish. Bitcoin, I think, is a little bit more bouncy bounce versus US dollar, that is. But right now for Mr. Buterol, still 183.5 to 184, the area to beat. If we can do that, then I'd be looking for a move actually to 205, and then 235, and then 265. But still unable to close above this region, and just getting the more time that it spends going sideways there, then the not good resolution it does imply. If you want to be bullish, of course. For Mr. Buter all bears, well, fair enough. Have a happy day. Have your nice honey. Anyways, going back on to Bitcoin and wrapping this bitch up. Let's go to the lower time frames and lower time frames. Wrap them up. We got that next move back up to test 10.2. Great. I do think that this gets pushed back. We probably test back down to maybe like low 10,000, and then after that, I'd be looking for. I do think that we get a continuation up to 10.3. I actually do think that we test that region officially. I don't have an opinion on if we break it or not, but if we do break it, if you see a 4-hour delta closing above there, especially wherever the 200 simple and purple 200 exponential moving average is, these two guys right here, which of course they're right around that critical area of 10.3, then I would actually want to be, I'd want to be short term, medium term, and macro term long. Once again, just bullish in general. Now, of course, I'm not just going to like blindly pick a spot, but I'd be looking for longs is kind of like the general gist, and I'd probably be looking for another move at the very least to like 10.7 and probably 11,000 in the short term. So very much tradable. But assuming that this test over here gets rejected, extremely likely we come back down in here and test this region once again at 98.50, we'll call it. I don't think that it holds. I do not think that it holds, the next like major time that we come down. I do think that we could come down from this region right here. That'd be okay. But if we get rejected right here and then break it, oh man, that would look incredibly nasty. So right now, just kind of watching, wishing, waiting, whatever the fuck that name of that song is. And for now, I suppose that will take care of things. Now, if we do break 98.50 to the downside, let's actually just briefly talk about this. Short-term target 96.50 and probably come all the way back down here after a short and failed bounce right here. But for right now, I would, just kind of let this one resolve itself in the lower time frames. And let's see, how's the daily going to be closing? The daily close like this, pretty indecisive. Probably do some more sideways coming into tomorrow as well. Anyways, that's going to do it for today. I do want to wish you well. Do want to wish you the best of the best on this Wednesday. There it is. Anyways, I'll be back on tomorrow morning. Looking forward to seeing you there. If not, wishing you well anyways. Take care and see you soon.